Hello, and welcome to Networking with Michelle. You are tuned into the podcast dedicated to enhancing your professional development by nurturing relationships and navigating the professional maze. Michelle Gomez is the founder of Line 25 Consulting and author of the book Network, Navigate, and Nurture, The Equation to Strategic Networking. Here now is Michelle Gomez.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Networking with Michelle. I am your host, Michelle Gomez. Today we have Steve Scott, who I came across on Twitter. Steve has numerous books on personal/habit development and a podcast called Self-Publishing Questions. Steve, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing, Michelle?
I'm doing great. Well, once again, thanks for taking the time to speaking with me, and just want to go head first, tell us a little bit about yourself and everything that you do.
That's a lot. I've had various internet businesses for about 11 years now, so I kind of live that kind of internet lifestyle that people talk about where I work from home. I travel a good amount with my fiance and just go to various countries a couple times a year. Primarily what I've done lately, I would say in the last 3 years, is I write kind of smallish type of Kindle books on the Amazon.com platform, obviously. And more specifically, what I've done lately, I would say in the last 2 years, is I focus in on the habit and personal development market. So I try to take specific habits that people are trying to build and put that into actionable short kind of piece of content that people can not only digest but use to incorporate into their life.
Okay. Now, we all are aware of the importance of professional and personal development, and we always, I at least try to strive for that. So how did you really decide that was going to be your niche and hone in on that type of topic and message? I
kind of came about it in a weird sort of way that I did pretty well with the Kindle books where I talked primarily about my internet business, affiliate marketing, outsourcing, just a bunch of different topics I already knew, I already had that previous experience. And one day I just decided I wanted to start a whole new line of books in some area, and I really didn't know at the time what I wanted to do. So I just kind of examined my life. I basically created a list of different passions I have. So traveling, exercising, kind of the lifestyle stuff. And what I kept on coming back to is pretty much every bit of success I've had in my life really came down to the daily actions and the decisions that I make as far as how I want to frame my workday. But I really kind of drilled down and figured out there's really just the daily habits and what I do every single day. Instead of actually doing some people go on these binges where they try to write over a weekend. For me, what always worked was just consistent effort and just keeping at it on just literally a daily basis. So I was like, you know what? Maybe instead of just talking about personal development as kind of this big nebulous topic, I can just take individual specific habits and just focus on those inside each one of the books. So I just kind of just rolled into that. And I didn't think the habit brand would really take off the way it has, but things have gone pretty well over the last year.
Yeah, I am definitely a binge writer. I am definitely a binge writer. I actually wish I found you last year before I wrote my first book.
Oh, no.
But I have you now, so I'm definitely grateful. But we're going to get to your podcast later. But your podcast, the few episodes that I have heard have definitely helped me as far as with how I need to approach my writing and the marketing plan. So I have a lot more concepts, fortunately. So I'm definitely hoping I can utilize a lot of your resources from the book and the podcast to pretty much be like you when I grow up.
Oh, it's great. It's not sexy at all, but it's just, I don't know. I find I'm not really a binge person. I just find that it's boring as hell, but you just sit there and just do something every single day and you can move mountains. So
by chance, do you listen to Johnny Dumas' Entrepreneur on Fire?
I do not. It's not really any remark on his podcast. I only listen to a certain couple of podcasts. I absolutely know everything about what he's done. So
okay.
He's amazing. I've never had a chance to really check out his podcast.
Yeah, I got you. Well, one of his questions he always asks is, what do you do within the first 80 minutes of the morning? And you read a couple articles and talk about, of course, the habits, the importance of having a morning routine. And I was just wondering, that's something I'm working on, right? So definitely based off of his podcast. And then now I'm seeing it with you. I'm like, okay, Michelle, you anytime it's mentioned twice, it's a confirmation. So get it together. But can you just talk about the importance of having a morning routine and how that sets the tone for the day?
Sure. I just find that, like a lot of people, I'm actually not a morning person. Actually, really, it's difficult for me to drag myself out of bed at 7:30. And that's usually the earliest I get up. I know some morning aficionados, they'll get up at 5:30. I know How Elrod from his morning miracle, I've talked to him a few times, that he does get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, something awful like that. But I try to keep it somewhat sane. I get up at 7. So I do what I call a habit stacking routine, where I take a bunch of small habits, and I just do it for the simple fact that I know if I try to do them in the latter part of the day, they just will never get done. So I try to include a bunch of small habits. Like, it sounds stupid and silly, but it really does make sense. Like, I'll make my bed, because that kind of sets the tone of just that every time you walk past a made bed, there's the kind of what they call the broken glass theory, that if you see a bunch of messes and you see stuff that's disorganized, you kind of tend to have a disorganized approach to life. So I try to at least do a little bit of clean, like literally 5 minutes of cleaning, decluttering, wash my face, drink a glass of water, write down the 3 most important tasks that I need to get done for the day, drink a protein shake or some type of healthy shake. So I do a bunch of stuff in a 20 to 30 minute span of time. And then from there, depending on whether I'm going for a major run that day, but on most days, if I don't do one of those major runs, I'll go and do a quick 30 to 40 minute walk. So I try to, no matter what the weather, so if it's super cold, I try to follow the German philosophy that there's no such thing as cold weather, just bad clothing. If it's cold weather, I try to bundle up and just get out the doors and just walk for 30 to 40 minutes. And when I get back, I try to spend a good hour to an hour and a half on my most important task, which if I'm recording podcasts and I'm involved with that, it's recording podcasts, or if I'm writing a book, I'll focus on writing. So I guess the point there is I know that content creation is the focal point of my business, so I try to spend the first couple of hours of my workday focused on content creation more than anything else.
Okay. And how long have you been podcasting?
Since January, but I've actually decided to take a hiatus for the next couple of months because I'm getting married and going on a honeymoon and a bunch of other things. So I just kind of need to focus on the most important aspects of my business. So unfortunately, that has to that has to be on the back burner until I have a little more time in September. Okay.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Well, in line with that, though, obviously you ran numerous books. So how did this Self-Publishing Questions podcast develop? Was that because you were literally getting several questions, or how were you able to spin that off?
In my head, it's just a way to save time, but it's actually turned into more time than I thought it would take. But yeah, I do get a lot, because I do a significant amount of podcast interviews. I have a couple of books on self-publishing. And I guess because I've had a couple pretty successful months through self-publishing, I became a little bit of a name in the industry. So I was just getting bombarded with questions. So I'm like, you know what? Instead of just having to answer the same question over and over, I would just literally take each episode, take one of the questions, and just record an episode around it. And my thought was I would just turn that into ultimately a product that I realized recently I just don't have time to create that product. So like I said, I kind of took a back step to it. But I kind of want to try a new platform. I never tried podcasting before. Not necessarily a good natural speaker, but I feel that, like any other habit, that if I worked at it on a daily basis, I would get better at it. It's still a work in progress. I still like the idea of podcasting. I just haven't quite found a way to make it work into what I feel is what's already working with my existing business.
Gotcha. I understand completely, because I'm still tweaking on mine.
Yeah. It's not as easy as people make it out to be.
Right. So I have to squeeze it in there. And I think I've been batching every Wednesday, and I'm even thinking about cutting that back to maybe twice a month. So we'll see how that goes.
Actually, as far from a batching standpoint, I actually do all my conversations, all my interviews on Wednesdays. So obviously we're talking today. And that's one thing I've definitely learned from John Lee Dumas is he does all his interviews. I guess it's a Monday or something. And I think that strategy for anything, it works brilliantly. If you need to do a bunch of stuff, just try doing them all together. You get in a group and you find that each successive thing that you're doing, it just gets a little bit easier if you're doing it in one fell swoop.
Absolutely. So with you doing so much, whether it's the podcast, the number of books you have written, as well as business as a whole, can you maybe chime in on how networking or strategic collaboration has helped you throughout your business?
I would say a couple things that work for me. I'm actually writing a book about introversion, and that's actually something that's really on my mind lately, is I'm, by definition, very much an introvert. So I tend to, one of the downsides of my routine is I tend to withdraw into my cave and not reach out as much to people. What I have found that's worked for me from a networking standpoint is getting out there, just creating a lot of high-value content, and it almost acts as like breadcrumbs back to your overall brand. If you're producing good stuff, people will reach out to you. So I noticed that a lot more opportunity has come across my path in the last year or two because I've had success. Whereas back a couple of years ago, when I reached out to people didn't really return my email because I was, for lack of a better term, I was a nobody. I just didn't really... I'm sorry, that's actually a poor choice of words, but I just didn't really have a presence that people felt I could add any value to their business. But I guess that people see now that I can perhaps help them, they're always reaching out to me. So that's one thing that that's one way I kind of network. But also I find the people that, at least one co-author, I met her in person. So I find that honestly live events and going to conferences and talking to people in person, that's probably the most invaluable thing that you can do as an online entrepreneur. Because for people that do work from home, it's too easy to sit just behind a computer and just email people. Sometimes you need that solid in-person.
I agree. Definitely have to have a solid connection. So what's in store for the next 6 to 12 months?
Get married, go on my honeymoon, and really between that, we're doing a short trip after our honeymoon, so it's like 2 trips. So that's pretty much the rest of June, July, and August. That's like almost an entire quarter just doing personal stuff. So I would say past that point, probably in September, October, I would like to create a product about self-publishing. But honestly, I feel the best value I can do is just working on my actual habit business, building more habits in my life and writing about that as well.
Well, Steve, I know you're a hardworking man, so you definitely deserve that vacation and all good things with your marriage. I wish you nothing but joy and happiness.
Well, thank you. Hopefully everything will go smoothly. I'm trying to calm my fiance down because I know she's a lot more nervous than I am right now.
So as we wrap up, how can people get in contact with you and how do you define success?
Okay, 2 separate questions. I'd say probably the best way to get in contact with me, the only place now that I actually even have my email address is through my blog, the Habit Blog. So that's developgoodhabits.com. And you can find contact information and links to all my books there. And honestly, defining success, that's always a hard one. But for me, success really is being able to live the life that you want to live on your terms. And I'm really kind of into having your own freedom in life and just not necessarily a dollar amount, but just having enough where you can maintain your lifestyle while also being able to choose what you do on a daily basis.
Well, Steve, once again, I want to thank you for being generous with your time. Everyone, please go to michellegomez.com or check us out on iTunes for this interview. You can definitely find the show notes available as well. And remember, you never know who you're going to meet and what it's going to lead to. Thanks for networking with Michelle.